Hello there, welcome, and here's another revision video which is going to focus today on diseconomies of scale for a business. There's lots to get through, so let's get started. So diseconomies of scale mean that a business has essentially moved beyond its optimum size in the long run and therefore suffers from an increase in long run average cost. And what this this diagram shows you is the unit cost of production over the long run, as a firm can change the scale of production. If average cost is falling, we say there are economies of scale. If the unit cost reaches a low point, that's the minimum efficient scale, and that's also known as the point of productive efficiency. But our focus in this video is when the long run average cost starts to edge higher, as you can see on the right hand side there. And that means that a firm is experiencing diseconomies of scale. So diseconomies are the result of decreasing returns to scale, and they lead to an increase in average cost. So what are the causes of diseconomies of scale? Well, typically we associate these problems with the costs and the complexity of operating a large business. First of all, a control issue. Monitoring the productivity and the quality of output from thousands of employees in a big, complex business. It's going to be imperfect and it's going to be expensive. Some of you will have come across the idea of the principal agent problem, in particular where shareholders find it hard to monitor the performance of managers. Second problem is cooperation. So workers in big firms may develop a sense of alienation and a loss of morale. If they don't consider themselves to be an integral part of the business, their productivity may fall, leading to wastage of factor inputs and therefore higher costs. Crucially, they may feel they have little freedom or little autonomy in how they approach key tasks and key projects. Third problem is really coordination and the problems of internal politics. It's very hard to coordinate complex production processes, maybe across several different factories in different locations, different countries. And internal politics can often get in the way big time, particularly when you have people with inflated egos. So here's a little graphic which shows some of the key causes of diseconomies of scale. Bigger businesses, for example, may face higher regulatory costs, for example, environmental standards, health and safety, and employment laws. We've mentioned also that big businesses may suffer from complex, disruptive office politics, perhaps some poor industrial relations. There's often a lot of inefficiency and waste in big organisations, expensive accounts which money gets lost in. And it may be the case in big businesses that your permanent salaried staff become a little risk averse. They're not quite prepared to take the risks and be as creative as perhaps they might be. I really love this quote from Luke Johnson in the Financial Times just a couple of years back. The law of large numbers militates against large businesses. They tend to become too complex. They tend to become inflexible as they grow, and that inhibits their ability to be adaptive as the market changes. And here's a final quote from Forbes magazine in March 2016. I think this really captures for you the essence of diseconomies of scale. In organisations with highly complicated process structures, oftentimes managers can spend nearly half their time writing reports and maybe as much as 60% of their time in meetings. Smaller businesses clearly are more nimble and perhaps more cost efficient. So just to summarise this topic, diseconomies of scale are the increases in the long run average cost for a business. It means they've moved beyond their optimum size and they're losing some productive efficiency. The big danger for businesses suffering from diseconomies is that the higher unit costs will actually affect their profits. And indeed, they may have to pass on some of those higher costs to their consumers in the form of an increased price. Fundamentally, diseconomies of scale can make a business less competitive, which could feed through into a fall in their market share and perhaps also a decline in their share price if it's not addressed. So this has been a short revision video focusing on diseconomies of scale, the increase in unit costs in the long run as a firm moves beyond its optimum size.